2022, Afghanistan. The U.S. Army arrives in the Registan Desert.
Jesus. So 120 this mother.
The military gets out of their vehicles and suddenly sees snow in the middle of the desert. In the distance, the soldiers see an entire frozen settlement and head there to find out what's wrong. Upon entering the village, the soldiers discover that absolutely everything, even the people and animals, are covered in ice. The anomalous phenomenon in the Afghan desert draws the attention of the U.S. government. Assistant Secretary of State Max Lawson arrives at the White House on an emergency call.
The president's called a security briefing. It was not on the schedule, so...
The Security Council concludes that faulty satellites controlling the Earth's climate are to blame for the sudden weather anomalies.
I'm not sure how long it's going to keep.
One member suggests shutting down the satellites until the cause of the malfunction is figured out.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious.
The President and Secretary of State are not in favor of this idea, because they can't take that risk on the eve of an election.
You shut Dutch boy down, press is going to jump all over this.
Lawson interrupts the officials and reminds them that human lives are more important than politics.
The only thing we should be concerned about here is how to fix it and making sure it never happens again.
Lawson suggests sending a team of specialists to the space station to solve the problem.
No matter the cost, no matter the politics, and you need them up there now.
The President agrees with Lawson and suggests sending the best expert to the station to lead the team and report back to the government.
So find me that someone. Now.
And all that happened because, in the near future, due to global warming, the climate on Earth rapidly deteriorates. In 2019, the planet is hit by a wave of natural disasters, unprecedented catastrophes that destroy millions of people and wipe entire metropolises off the face of the Earth. On the brink of extinction, humanity realizes that the only chance to survive is to unite the forces of all developed nations and fend off the onslaught of these disasters. Scientists from 17 countries tirelessly work and encircle the planet with a network of thousands of satellites, each capable of influencing the key elements of weather, temperature, humidity, and pressure. Hundreds of specialists at the International Space Station, ISS, control this innovative satellite network. In the community, this network has been dubbed the Dutchman in honor of a literary hero who saved the Netherlands from flooding by plugging a leak in a dam with his finger. The Dutchman has become the salvation for humanity and the entire planet. Jake Lawson, the project leader for the satellite network, arrives for a hearing before the Senate Committee on the Management of the Dutchman Network, which the United States is obligated to transfer control of to the International Commission in 3 years. Politicians oppose this, considering the Dutchman as part of the American national heritage, ignoring the fact that specialists from all corners of the world contributed to the project.
I was up there with an international crew, not just Americans, and I know all of their faces, but I don't remember yours.
Due to disagreements with senators and numerous conflicts during his work, Jake faces potential removal from his position as the chief coordinator of the Climate ISS. After the hearing, Jake's younger brother, Max, reveals that he was appointed as the new leader of the Dutchman network a week ago, and Jake has been fired from his position. 3 years pass. One of the deserted settlements in Afghanistan is suddenly covered in ice, and all the inhabitants freeze in an instant. This weather anomaly grabs the attention of the U.S. government. Max Lawson, now serving as the Assistant Secretary of State, arrives for an unscheduled meeting of the Security Council, where it is revealed that one of the satellites over Afghanistan has malfunctioned for unknown reasons. All members of the council are concerned about the sudden failure of the Dutchman. Max proposes that an international team on the ISS directly handle the issue, rather than bureaucrats in offices. Within 2 weeks, the U.S. transfers control of the Dutchman to the International Commission, prompting the President to instruct Max to find a reliable specialist who will swiftly go to the station and unquestioningly obey the White House, reporting on all the team's actions. The U.S. Secretary of State, Leonard Deckham, insists that Max call his brother Jake, as he successfully led representatives from 17 countries during the construction of the system, making him the best candidate to handle the task. Meanwhile, the faulty Afghan satellite is replaced with a backup and sent to the station for inspection and problem identification. One of the team members, named Mahmoud, suspects something and discreetly uploads the satellite system data onto his holoframe to investigate the cause of the malfunction later. However, before he can take any action, a few minutes later, there is a decompression in one of the ship's compartments. Max arrives at his brother's home in Florida. After being fired, Jake lost his home and family, now living near the Space Center, repairing car engines and indulging in beer. Currently, Jake's 13-year-old daughter, Hannah, is staying with him, and unlike her father, she is delighted to see Max. Max tells his older brother that something is wrong with the Dutchman. Jake is still resentful towards Max, so he pretends not to care. However, Max convinces his brother to find out what happened to his life's work. Jake agrees to go to the ISS only if he doesn't have to work under Max's leadership. In Hong Kong, a ground service member of the Dutchman office named Chen Long accesses the network management system and notices that it did not register a failure in the Afghan satellite. He is puzzled by the malfunction and decides to inform Max, but Max doesn't answer his call. Meanwhile, the temperature on the street suddenly rises, causing a gas pipeline explosion. The pavement cracks open, and massive columns of fire erupt from the ground. The fire claims the lives of thousands of people and destroys an entire district of the city. Chen miraculously manages to escape the epicenter of the technological catastrophe. Jake successfully leaves Earth and arrives at the ISS. He is thrilled to be back on the station but immediately notices flaws in the ship's maintenance. Jake is greeted by Ute Fossbinder, the chief scientific officer and commander of the station. She introduces Jake to the team, who initially have a biased attitude towards the American leader. However, Jake gets straight to the point and informs them that they have 3 incidents on their agenda: Afghanistan, the scientist's accident, and the fire in Hong Kong. Lawson intends to find out the cause of the failure and prevent further disasters, with the help of the international team.
So, feel free to join me.
Max spends the evening with his girlfriend, Sarah Wilson, who is an agent of the U.S. Secret Service. Max proposes to her, but Sarah reminds him that it goes against their professional rules. Suddenly, the phone rings. Concerned Chen informs Max that he was at the epicenter of the events yesterday and that the problem lies not in the gas pipeline explosion itself but in the sudden temperature rise. Chen is certain that the satellite should have detected it, but he cannot access the satellite data over Hong Kong. Max tries to access the system using his holoframe, but his access is also restricted.
And the only people that have the authority to block it are in the building you work in.
Chen believes that someone is trying to hide a system defect, which could lead to a planetary-scale disaster. It turns out that in the event of a global failure, the Dutchman can create a so-called geostorm, simultaneous climate catastrophes occurring worldwide. While Max is talking to Chen, Sarah prepares for an emergency meeting called by the president. Chen continues to investigate the causes of the system failure, but suddenly the power goes out in the office. A group of unknown individuals infiltrates and searches Chen's workspace, trying to find out what he has learned. Fortunately, Chen manages to hide in a storage room and goes unnoticed. On the ISS, an analysis of the Afghan satellite's operation is conducted. Scientists have already checked the satellite's hard drives, but due to the failure, all data about the problem was erased. Jake decides to check over 1,000 satellites of a similar type and search their logs for traces of a system error. Max tries to figure out why he can't establish communication with any of the Dutchman satellites and turns to Dana, a cybersecurity specialist. Intrigued by the challenging task, Dana immediately begins scanning Max's holoframe data. She discovers that the access was deliberately blocked in a way that wouldn't raise suspicions. The White House contacts the ISS team.
Alright, so who are the yahoos in Washington we're gonna deal with on this?
I guess I would be the head yahoo.
Jake Lawson is not thrilled about interacting with his superiors, and he learns that he has to report directly to Max, which further annoys him. Jake wants to end the conversation with his younger brother, but Max informs him about the remote access issues with the Dutchman and suspects that they are not coincidental. Jake explains that the complete information about the failures can only be obtained on the ISS, and Max suggests granting permission to collect data from the satellite. Jake is frustrated with the need to obey his brother and insists on relying on his own knowledge and experience. Max reluctantly agrees but warns that he will fire Jake for any unauthorized actions. Meanwhile, the malfunctioning Hong Kong satellite is brought to the station for diagnostics. Jake believes that the faulty satellite needs to be disassembled, and the entire team is ready to start investigating the issues. However, the satellite suddenly stops responding to control signals and begins uncontrollably crashing into everything around it. By a stroke of luck, the team members remain unharmed. The remnants of the satellite are handed over to the repair crew. Jake wants to retrieve information from the hard drives, but system analyst Duncan Taylor informs him that there was a short circuit during the accident, which destroyed the drives. Jake realizes that it looks highly suspicious, and someone clearly doesn't want the team to uncover the truth. Satellite communications and security specialist Ray Dussett reports that he reviewed the video footage of the station accident and noticed that one of the detached panels got stuck in the telecommunication antenna. Each of these panels contains a hard drive, providing an opportunity to extract the necessary information about the cause of the failure. Jake and Ute venture into open space and successfully retrieve the panel from the antenna grid. However, on their way back, Jake's spacesuit unexpectedly goes out of control. He is violently thrown from side to side with immense force. The team suggests cutting off the fuel supply, but the spacesuit doesn't respond to commands. Following Ute's advice, Jake detaches the thruster backpack, but he still can't stop himself. Miraculously, Lawson survives by grabbing onto a tether at the edge of the spacecraft. Finally, Lawson and Fassbinder return inside the station. It turns out that Jake managed to extract the disk from the panel at the last moment. He shares the discovery with Ute but hides the drive from the rest of the team. Jake believes that someone wanted to get rid of him and deliberately caused the accident. It's clear that someone is determined to prevent Jake and Ute from accessing the data on the disk. After analyzing the information on the drive, Ute and Jake discover that the panels were intentionally rigged and programmed to be torn off. It seems impossible to determine who orchestrated it since there are no digital fingerprints on the disk. However, Jake reveals to Ute that the Dutchman has a hidden database that records and stores every action. Lawson attempts to access the secret database but realizes that someone with access to the conference room has blocked him. Chen Long arrives in Washington and calls Max, informing him that he has figured everything out. Chen arranges a meeting with his old friend at a cafe, intending to share something very important. Max, accompanied by Sarah, arrives at the designated location and is visibly nervous. They spot Chen across the road and start walking towards him when suddenly an unknown person pushes Chen right into the path of an oncoming car. Due to the powerful impact, Chen is thrown several meters away and sustains life-threatening injuries. In a state of terror, Max rushes to Chen's side, and in his final moments, Chen manages to utter the word Zeus. After confirming with Ute, who has access to virtual video conferences, Jake urgently summons his brother. Max hurriedly connects, but Jake starts by apologizing. Max, irritated, reluctantly accepts the apology and is about to end the call. However, Jake stops him and mentions the unspoken code of honor between brothers. In that moment, Max realizes that his brother definitely has something planned, and Jake tells him a childhood story about their father taking them fishing. Max turns to Dana once again and explains that the story is a fabrication but contains important information. Jake hid a message in his speech using a cipher that Max created in their childhood. Now they just need to extract the necessary words to uncover what Jake was warning about.
Proof of sabotage at the highest level of government. Trust no one.
Max realizes the need for immediate action and instructs Dana to find all files related to the Zeus project that Chen mentioned. Dana discovers numerous encrypted files, but she is unable to decrypt them from her workstation since the files are located on the White House network. Dana hints to Max that his girlfriend could help them gain access to the classified data. Sarah vehemently refuses to commit an illegal act and hack into the White House server. However, Max convinces her to assist them and explains that he wouldn't ask her to do such a thing unless it was absolutely necessary. On the International Space Station, ISS, Ute and Jake review the surveillance camera footage and notice that Mahmoud extracted data from the Afghan satellite onto a holoframe and took it to the locker room. They head to the lockers and find a holoframe containing all the data. Now Jake realizes that the cause of the global satellite network failures is a virus uploaded by someone from the outside. Mahmoud had discovered this but didn't have a chance to tell anyone. Thanks to Sarah Wilson, Dana successfully hacks into the Zeus project files and discovers tens of thousands of simulations of possible catastrophes, all leading to a geostorm regardless of their starting points. Max speculates that Chen realized someone was following the script of one of the simulations, orchestrating a series of seemingly random accidents as a cover-up.
Someone has weaponized Dutch boy.
Max hurries to contact his brother to inform him about everything they have uncovered. Dana has concealed their communication channel, allowing the brothers to speak openly. Jake is distraught, as his life's work has flawlessly operated for years, but now people want to use it to destroy all life on the planet. Jake informs Max that the only way to purge the system of the virus is to temporarily shut down the Dutchman and reboot all processes. However, this requires a cancellation code held only by the president. But Jake suspects that the president is behind it all, considering that someone blocked access to the secret database that hardly anyone knew about. Max doesn't want to believe the president is involved, but according to Jake, he simply doesn't want to relinquish control of the Dutchman to an international commission. At the station, a malfunction is detected in 200 satellites, most of which are on the verge of failure. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, a terrifying hailstorm begins, and an ice front approaches Rio de Janeiro. Catastrophes of unprecedented scale start occurring all over the Earth. Jake suggests launching backup satellites to disable the damaged ones and take their place. However, the system soon reports that there are only 90 minutes left until the geostorm. At the same time, in Florida, the president is delivering a speech at the National Democratic Party gathering. Max learns about the devastating disasters in Tokyo and Rio de Janeiro from the news. After reviewing the data, he realizes which one of the many doomsday scenarios is unfolding. The next epicenter of the catastrophe is supposed to be Orlando, where the gathering is taking place, after which the geostorm will commence. Max decides to inform Secretary of State Leonard Deckham about everything. He reveals the potential involvement of the president in the impending disaster and asks for help in obtaining the cancellation code. However, the secretary informs Max that the code is biometric. The president's fingerprint and retinal scan are required. On the International Space Station, ISS, the self-destruction protocol is initiated. The crew members are unable to do anything as their access to the systems is blocked. Ute believes that only Duncan can help since he is the only specialist capable of bypassing the blockade. At that moment, Jake realizes that Duncan is working for the government and is responsible for all the malfunctions, viruses, and accidents. The station begins to self-destruct gradually, and Jake orders the team to board the shuttles while he heads towards Duncan. During their struggle, Duncan retrieves a weapon and tries to shoot Jake, but the bullet pierces the glass. Noticing the cracks in time, Jake manages to leave the compartment, and a few seconds later, Duncan is ejected into open space. Secretary of State Deckham escorts Max to the presidential chamber, where he suddenly attempts to shoot Max. Now Max realizes that the president is not behind the Geostorm. He finds Sarah and asks her to organize the abduction of the president because if he doesn't survive, the Geostorm cannot be stopped. Through deception, Max and Sarah manage to remove the president from the stadium just as a severe thunderstorm approaches the city, causing powerful explosions. They race at breakneck speed to escape the epicenter of the storm and inform the president about Secretary Deckham's plans. Meanwhile, they are pursued by Deckham's men, but Sarah takes care of them by eliminating the agents. Deckham blows up the car with the president, but all the passengers manage to escape in time and organize the arrest of the secretary. Meanwhile, the satellites continue to malfunction. A tornado approaches Mumbai, a beam of fire engulfs the center of Moscow, and a tsunami hits Dubai. Only 10 minutes remain until the Geostorm. Max contacts Jake and sends him the codes obtained from the president. The brothers bid farewell because the cancellation code can only stop the Geostorm, and the self-destruction cannot be disabled. It turns out that Ute also stayed on the ship, and now she and Jake are uploading the cancellation code. The process of disabling the satellites begins. In the final seconds, Jake manages to reboot the system and destroy the virus. The Geostorm is averted, and the weather conditions return to normal. The final stage of the dismantling of the International Space Station, ISS, is initiated. Suddenly, Jake notices a reserve satellite. Ute and Jake successfully make their way inside and leave the damaged station. The employees of the Space Center realize that they have lost Ute and Jake, but suddenly the radars detect flashes that resemble distress signals. One of the shuttles is directed towards the satellite, which brings the surviving crew members back to Earth. Everyone is ecstatic about the successful completion of the operation and the return of the ISS team. The Lawson brothers finally forgive each other for all the grievances and reunite. Now the construction of a new space station begins, which will belong to the whole world and prevent similar catastrophes. What do you think? Will the creators of the new station be able to protect the system from getting hacked? Or will the Dutchman become a dangerous weapon again in the future? Share your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.